Hi, how are y'all? All right, today we're talking about fever. Can you have sex when you have a fever? That's a good question, right? All right, what's a fever? A fever is a temperature more than 100.4 degrees. All right, Fahrenheit, right? So we want to know by measuring your temperature with a thermometer, what is it exactly, right? So if you have a thermometer like that, you press the button to put it on, you point it at the forehead, press the start button, it beeps, and it gives you the temperature, right? 100.4 is a fever, a serious fever, right? The higher the fever, the more serious it is, right? You can get seizures, you get all sorts of complications. We know with COVID, fevers were through the roof, right? But bottom line is, when you have a fever, you gotta get checked out, right? Is it an infection? A serious infection, a not so serious infection. And there are so many infections that cause fever. So please always get checked if you have a fever, right? Of 100.4. Low grade fevers, we know that we can get that from different viruses, common cold, and different infections that can actually be mild because we have different types of fevers. The fevers that are actually constant, the fevers that come up and come down, the fevers that are intermittent, the fevers that are low grade. So we have to have that idea of the low grade fever versus the high fever and know when it's more serious. So just remember, the low grade fever is between 99 and 100.3. So the normal temperature is anywhere between 97 and 99, right? But once you start going to the 99s, we want to be a little bit more astute and aware of what might be going on. All right. So, can you have sex when you have a fever? It depends on the cause of the fever, right? If your fever is from an infection, I'm going to say don't have sex because you can transfer that infection to your partner and you don't want to do that, right? So, most people say do not have sex when you have a fever caused by an infection. But what if it's not caused by an infection, right? What if it's caused by a hot flash, right? Women in their older ages, middle age, will have hot flashes, and those hot flashes will make you feel internally hot, right? Get that flash of heat. You're not really having a fever because if you take your temperature, it's actually normal, okay? So when you're having a fever, you got to make sure that you measure because it's going to be normal and you're going to think you have a fever, but you can actually have sex. And sex actually helps balance hormones, right? You produce these endorphins and oxytocin, the love hormone, oxytocin, and you'll feel much better after sex. So you can have sex when you're having a hot flash. Now, most women will have a heart attack when I say that, right? Because the hot flash is so uncomfortable. And I'm saying mild hot flashes. So don't worry. These hormones are going up and down, and you're going to have some hot flashes when you're going through menopause, perimenopause, and you'll find that sometimes they're severe, sometimes they're mild. If they're very, very cumbersome or troublesome, please get checked, get your hormones checked. We can check those hormones and we can actually stop those hot flashes naturally. I'm always into the natural way of doing it, right? So there are different ways of doing it. See a doctor like me, see a doctor that does know how to do natural hormones, not any hormones, natural bioidentical hormones. Those are the hormones you want to do so that you actually have an improvement in hot flashes or they go away. Okay? So you can have sex when you're having hot flashes, even though I know they should be mild because if they're severe, you're not going to want to have them. Okay? The other condition where you might have a so-called fever is when you're having a panic attack, right? You're having this panic attack and you're anxious and you're getting really, really scared and you're getting really nervous and you think you're having a fever. You think you're hot, right? Really hot. And then you realize, oh my goodness, I might just be having a panic attack and you might be feeling that you might be sick after the panic attack, but you're not. So measure the temperature. You're not having a temperature. You're fine. You can have sex. Why? That panic attack is throwing your chemicals and your hormones out of whack. When you have sex, it actually reduces stress. Sex is known to reduce stress. So I'm going to say have sex if you're having a panic attack with your partner, your loved one, right? Because it's going to help you reduce your stress, which is going to boost your immune system and keep diseases away. So it's important to know that you don't want to not have sex when you're stressed because you want to boost that immune system. So when you actually have conditions where you're angry or you're upset, now, hopefully not with your partner, because when it's with your partner, you don't want to have sex with your partner. So you want to make up. Please make up before sundown, and you want to just make sure that the stress is reduced so that your immune system increases. Okay, and you fight off all those diseases that are around. Okay, so the more sex you have, the better for you. Some studies show that 3 times a month, if you're having sex 3 times a month, you're building your immune system. If you have it less than that, you're losing and you're going to get sick, right? Now, I'm one of those people that say you have to have sex twice a week because you live longer. So I'm going to go even further and say have sex at least twice a week. You live longer. It helps the circulation, helps your heart, okay? And it might actually prevent you getting a fever, right? Because it's going to boost your immune system even more. So the most important thing I want you to take from this is sometimes you have a fever that is indicative of disease, right? And sometimes you have a fever that's more like internal heat, again, from anger or just from hot flashes or from hormone imbalances, right? Men, you guys get it too. You can get these hormones that will go nuts in you. Estrogen, female hormone goes up, and then you're going to get these hot flashes because guys should not have high estrogen levels. So, guys, I'm making a note. If you're having hot flashes, get your hormones checked. You're probably having too much estrogen, which is a female hormone. Are you going to turn into a woman? No. But it's not good for you to have too high of a estrogen level. And I've seen very high estrogen levels in men where they start crying, becoming very emotional. They're not becoming women, but they're crying, becoming emotional. They're becoming soft, not as strong as they used to be. They're forgetting where their keys are because that hormone is off. So that high estrogen can give you those hormones. And you think you have a fever? No. Check your temperature. You don't have a fever. Okay? So just remember that when you don't have a fever, you're fine to have sex. But if you have a fever, true fever, look into whether you have infection or not. The other reason why you're going to be careful is, yeah, we said diseases, right? You want to avoid having sex when you're having an infection that you might transfer to your patient, sorry, to your partner. But what you want to also know is there are some conditions like the thyroid, right, that actually reduces your temperature, right? If you're hypothyroid, if your thyroid is low, you're going to have actually a low temperature, below 97, right? And 98.6 is normal, but if you get these lower temperatures, you might have a thyroid issue, which is that low energy, that dragging, that weight gain. And you might think you have a temperature, you measure your temperature, and you're actually under the normal temperature, which means that you're actually cool or cold or um, having issues generating heat, right? Because the metabolism has gone down slow because of the low thyroid hormones. So you have to get those thyroid hormones checked. Now, the opposite is true also. If you have a lot of thyroid in your body, meaning you're anxious and you're hyperactive and those eyes are bulging or you have a goiter, get your thyroid checked because you can get a fever from that and that is serious. You got to get checked. No sex until that's resolved. But you want to make sure that you are on it and you are treated by a endocrinologist or a primary care doctor that knows how to treat thyroid issues. And get that ultrasound, make sure that the thyroid is working optimally, because if it's not, you're going to have issues with so many things, including fighting disease, your immune system, and weight, and just sexual activity also. So when you're hyperactive with the thyroid, you're not going to want to have sex because it's like you're all over the place and you're feeling uncomfortable. But if you do have sex, the one that's going to have more sex is the hyperactive thyroid than the one that doesn't have much of the thyroid hormone it's circulating in their body because they're low, right? So you're going to find those two extremes. The person that has a lot of thyroid is going to want to have more sex than the person that has low thyroid. But the temperature is going to be higher in the person that has higher thyroid hormones than the person that has lower thyroid hormones. So get your thyroid checked. If you're having, feeling cold all the time, right? Or you're feeling hot all the time, it could be your thyroid, right? So go in. The true temperature will tell you which one it is with the thyroid hormones, okay? All right. Another topic I love to really talk about when it comes to fever is STDs. I'm not going to go into that right now because that's a huge topic, and I love talking about STDs because STDs are so worrisome. But yet, we can treat them when we identify them. And the way STDs are now, we are really having an issue sometimes identifying them because they're hiding and they're getting very smart. So we'll talk about that on the next talk. But when it comes to fever, yes, if you're having an STD, you do not want to have sex. So that's the big no-no. No sex if it's an STD. And how do you know? You're looking for that discharge in men and women, right? But right now, I'm seeing women and men that don't even have a discharge. So I recommend getting tested if you're single and you're dating every 3 months. I love three, that's my favorite number. Every 3 months, get tested. If you're married, once a year at least. And if you're not sure whether you're in a monogamous relationship or not, get tested more frequently. Every 3 months, every 6 months, whenever you suspect that you need to be protecting yourself because you do not want to be carrying a disease and then you get the infection to spread into PID, which is pelvic inflammatory disease, and that's a true fever, and you're not going to have sex. And things can get really bad when you're having that infection because the fever can spread and you can actually die. So please understand you don't have sex if you suspect you have an STD, get checked. And I'm going to put this caveat in also. Sometimes the test may be negative. All right, I'll say it again. Sometimes that STD test is negative. And I know, you have HIV, you have syphilis, you have gonorrhea, you have chlamydia, you have hepatitis, right? And you want to make sure herpes is one too, but I don't worry too much about herpes, even though, yeah, you can get a fever with that too. And you want to avoid having sex if you have an outbreak. But the most important thing is for you to understand that some of these tests, gonorrhea, chlamydia especially, can be negative, and you get tested again. So if you have this discharge that you know is not normal, you've got to protect your tubes, ladies. Please, please, please run to the doctor, get that test, and get antibiotics immediately. I don't care whether you think you're positive or not, get antibiotics for that particular STD or whatever they suspect, because the doctor can suspect and treat based on suspicion, because you do not want to walk around with those infections that will block your tube, right? So remember, those can be low grade fevers and it can become higher grade fevers the more severe or more advanced it is. But you want to not have sex if you think you have an STD. All right. So the take home point here is that try to have sex at least 2 times a week when you're in a relationship that is monogamous, protected, consenting adults. And when you're not having sex, you're reducing your immune system so you can get fevers more, right? If you boost your immune system, less fevers, so you can have sex all the time, right? But if you are not having sex, you're weakening your immune system and you're going to get fevers more than you realize, okay? So let's try and have more sex so your immune system is the best and boosted so that you really live longer and you actually have more energy and you have more time to spend with your loved ones, okay? Because that's the bottom line. You want to be alive, you want to be healthy, and sex will help you do that, okay? All right. Good talking to you guys. Talk to you later. Take care. Bye. Ciao.